Good morning, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this morning session hosted by Rare Disease Society Nepal. I'll be the host for this session today. We are honored to have with us a distinguished expert in the field of pathology, Dr. Pragya Gautam Ghimre, who will be speaking on the topic of cutaneous leishmaniasis leishmaniasis as a rare disease, an evolving narrative in Nepal. Dr. Ghimire, talking about her, she is an associate professor of pathology in Kathmandu University. Her impressive career expands in the various areas of expertise in pathology, including clinical hemoglobinopathies, then infectious disease and tropical diseases, women health, cancer screening and diagnosis testings. So right now she is affiliated with Nepal Medical College and Teaching Hospital and National Diagnostic and Clinic in Banke, Nepal. So please join me, all of you, please join me in welcoming her as a speaker for today's session. Madam, the floor is yours. Now we can start. Thank you.
So, should I start?
Yes, yes, you can start now. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you, Dr. Rupesh. Thank you, RDSN, for giving me this floor for this wonderful morning session of a webinar. The presentation today would be cutaneous leishmaniasis as a rare disease and evolving narrative in Nepal. I can see many of the faces, known faces. I would love to be together for this session in the morning. So the picture here depicts a photo of cutaneous leishmaniasis. So you can see the picture and we can feel how the lady must be feeling about this wound on her face. So cutaneous leishmaniasis is all about this picture today. So we can see a wound, the non-healing ulcer for months. Uh, so we would be discussing about this. So this is a disfiguring disease, leaves with scarring. So we can know its clinical importance through the webinar. So this leishmaniasis comes amongst the neglected tropical disease by WHO. So what are the neglected tropical diseases? So they are common in tropical countries only. They lack public health attention at global and national level also. And they mainly affect people living in poverty with inadequate access to clean water, basic sanitation, and healthcare. So now among the 20 neglected diseases listed by WHO in 2025, leishmaniasis is also one of them among the other bacterial, viral, parasitic diseases. And in Nepal, there are 11 neglected tropical diseases found and leishmaniasis is one of them. So what does Nepal government do about this leishmaniasis? So it has set a target. The target was 2015, where the Nepal government was expecting an elimination of leishmaniasis, but the target has been shifted to 2026 because we are getting the emergence of cutaneous leishmaniasis. Although the VL cases has been declining, the report says, but CL cases has been rising. So 2026 is the targeted elimination by the Nepal government. So what is leishmaniasis now? It is also known as Kala Azar. Today we'll be focusing basically on the skin Kala Azar, that is the cutaneous leishmaniasis. So as a whole, this leishmaniasis are a group of vector-borne diseases. They are caused by the protozoan parasite Leishmania donovani. And the important about this parasite is it is transmitted by a female sandfly which has to be infected first, and this is the vector which helps in disease transmission. And human beings are the only reservoir of the disease in cutaneous leishmaniasis. So this cutaneous leishmaniasis, mucocutaneous leishmaniasis, visceral leishmaniasis are the three clinical forms of this disease. And we have other form like PKDL, that is post-Kala-Azar dermal leishmaniasis, which is associated with visceral leishmaniasis. So there are the abbreviations CL, MCL, VL, PKDL, which will be seen in the webinar. Now CL affects the skin only, so we'll be basically talking about CL only today. So MCL is more dangerous and it is involving the mucous membranes, whereas the VL is more severe and impacts internal organs and later can also lead to PKDL. Those are the skin changes in the skin. So this is a beautiful looking sandfly, though not beautiful at all. So why? Because it's a female sandfly, and we know that the females are the transmitters. Why? Because they have to lay eggs, so they bite humans to drink blood. Now, during these bites, they pass the parasites that can cause a serious illness that we have been discussing, that is leishmaniasis. Now, looking at its life cycle, so it is transmitted by an infected female sandfly. We should remember this term. The sandfly should be infected itself during its blood meals. So the infected sandflies, they inject the promastigotes during a blood meal to the host, that's the human. So now they release these promastigotes into the human host, which are taken by the macrophages of the immune system of the human host. So in these macrophages, these promastigotes, they develop into multiple amastigotes, and this cycle perpetuates the infection in the host. So we must remember that amastigotes are the forms of LD bodies known as LD bodies, which are seen in humans. So this is of diagnostic importance in our laboratories. So now this is a sandfly cycle. We can see it's an infective stage, human stage. So there are various stages we already discussed. So now what is the epidemiology? We have known through our literatures that CL is the most common form globally, causing skin lesions, typically skin ulcers, as we saw in the picture in the beginning. So it is said it is the most common form of leishmaniasis, which we have been discussing today. And the estimated 600,000 to 1 million new cases are reported annually worldwide. So we can know the impact, the importance of cutaneous leishmaniasis, how important it is. And over 20 leishmaniasis species cause CL worldwide. So now we're coming to the Nepali. In Nepal, the guideline, the National Strategic Guideline on Kala-Azar Elimination Program in Nepal, that is 2014, says, we can see in the picture that chapter 2, we can see below that number 3, there is in Nepal, cutaneous and mucocutaneous forms have not been reported or well documented. But to bring to you a highlight that we have been seeing cases since 2012, since I was in the western region of Nepal, our team have been seeing cutaneous leishmaniasis very commonly, and it has been documented in our laboratory records. So the government of Nepal 2014 says there is no cutaneous leishmaniasis or mucocutaneous leishmaniasis in Nepal. Similarly, the WHO reports the map shows the endemicity of cutaneous leishmaniasis worldwide. So we can see in the picture that in Nepal there is not available. So it's in the gray region. It says not available. So in Nepal again 2014 it says we don't have MCL and CL. It's not endemic. Whereas we have VL and PKDL, but we don't have CL and MCL. Now, again, the Nepalese scenario till 2015, we are seeing that there's no data. So, seeing the world's perspective, that's the most common form of leishmaniasis, and we have leishmaniasis in Nepal. The Nepalese government has listed it as among the 11 neglected tropical diseases in the country. So, why do we not get cutaneous leishmaniasis? So, could it be underdiagnosed? Could it be underreported? Or could it be under-recognized? So, similarly, we can also see this endemicity was only reported in the 12 districts in Nepal in 2012. Similarly, we can move on to 2016, where we can see 18 districts. So, we can see the increasing trend according to the years. So, now what we do is we realize the importance, and myself, I go and present on an annual consulate meet in Kathmandu, where we discussed about the 33 cases we had recorded in our department of Nepal Medical College here. So that was a remarkable leap in cutaneous leishmaniasis in Nepal, since the elimination guideline was 2015, and in 2018 January we are seeing that there is 33 cases of leishmaniasis already in our record in Western Nepal. So this is the clustering of the diseases. So this is my workstation where I work. So the regions which are involved, we can see is the Karnali region. So this is province 5. So you can see the clustering of the region. The beauty of this fact is this leishmaniasis are coming from the hills. They are shifting from the lowlands, which we had seen in the previous maps, and they are moving to the Karnali region, that is the province 5. So now we publish an article, cutaneous leishmaniasis, a neglected vector-borne tropical disease in Midwestern region of Nepal. So this article highlights cutaneous leishmaniasis in 33 cases. This study provided critical baseline data on the clinical, epidemiological, and pathological aspects of CL in Midwestern Nepal. So this is the remarkable change in cutaneous leishmaniasis. So what I want to point out is we had been just seeing cases since I was here in the western part from 2008 in the laboratory. So we had been seeing cases, but we were not reporting it. We were just concentrating with our pathology records. So that is why I say whether it is underreported, it is under-recognized, or it is underdiagnosed. So now we are coming and reporting this number of large series in 2018, and we are publishing this article of 33 cases, which shifts the paradigm of cutaneous leishmaniasis from the lowlands to the hills. So this article says it all. And then we can see the distribution here, which we can see later in the recent records that Calicut, we can see table 2 here, Calicut, we can see the frequency is 10. So the maximum patients, I'm talking all about cutaneous leishmaniasis, are coming from these regions of Nepal, that is Calicut, and the next being the Dolpa. So this is how we presented the data, and the age groups, you can see it is ranging from less than 20. You can see in the pictures later on, it is all kids basically, and the lesions are, it could be the exposed part, that is the face usually we got in our series, which is also reported in the articles worldwide. And then what did we do? Also did a poster presentation. We did a poster presentation which was knowing the species here. The article was based on cytodiagnosis only, but this article, which was presented on Italy, was based on the detection of the species of the Leishmania causing leishmaniasis. So this article says that the Leishmania donovani did the cutaneous leishmaniasis in our part, and this was already published long back. So now, what happens to the national guideline now? So this cutaneous and mucocutaneous leishmaniasis now, the national guideline has been updated, and in 2019, they quote as a different chapter in the guideline, and it says that recently there has been series reports from Western Nepal, especially the tropics and the hills. So the Kalazar is reported as has been moved to the hills of the Karnali province. Now, so there is an update in the guidelines. So what did our article do? It made an inclusion of diseases like CL, MCL, and PKDL, which I stated that it is cutaneous leishmaniasis, mucocutaneous leishmaniasis, and post-Kala-Azar dermal leishmaniasis also in the hills. So, and this guideline also addressed that every HIV patient should be investigated for co-infection with visceral leishmaniasis. And the recommendation for the treatment, that is liposomal amphotericin B as the first line treatment for primary Kala-Azar, was then updated in the national 2019 government of Nepal's guideline. So now we do a historical view in Nepal. So as we have been emerging in our webinar, we saw from the rare to a historical highlight where it has been updated in the guideline, and it is becoming now endemic disease. So historically, CL was considered rare and not documented in Nepal. So it was only reported in the migrant workers who had come from Dubai or who had come from the other regions in the world. And we had seen cutaneous leishmaniasis only in the workers who had come from different countries being Nepalese. But our data reported that the 33 cases were all endogenous population of Nepal. They were the endogenous people living in Nepal. So this was a historical view in Nepal. And so visceral leishmaniasis or Kala-Azar, though predominant, we also were getting lot of cases of cutaneous leishmaniasis. So this is a case report which was in 2008, so which says that the cutaneous leishmaniasis was detected and treated in DUTH Kathmandu. And now what happens to the world map? The endemicity changes in 2022. Now the WHO records Nepal as the endemic for cutaneous leishmaniasis. So this is the historical highlight how cutaneous leishmaniasis has become endemic, and you can see the red zone in the flag, the map with Nepal being all endemic for cutaneous leishmaniasis in 2022. Now in 2023, we can see 47 districts are all endemic for cutaneous leishmaniasis. Previously, uh, uh, so-called rare was now going to 47 districts in Nepal. So there was an international speaker who also quoted our article and came to talk about cutaneous leishmaniasis, and he also said that it is very endemic here, and he was surprised to know this. It is from the hills. So what are the recent literatures on cutaneous leishmaniasis? So there are bombarding of the literatures which comes after the update in the national guideline, which says that a deadly disease of the lowlands has moved into the Nepal's hilly zones. So so this sandfly control has been started in the hills now. So the example is in Kalikot, Nepal. So there's an epidemiological shift we saw that the VL was primarily endemic to the warmer lowland Tarai regions of Nepal, whereas CL has become moving to these regions, or was it there from the earlier days? We don't know. And though even as VL cases decreased nationally, the records say that VL are decreasing, but we are finding new cases of CL in the hills. So now there are other articles in the species identification, like where I also have been one of the author here. So Leishmania donovani persistence and circulation causing cutaneous leishmaniasis, unusual foci of Nepal. This is again a landmark article, as it says that in our region, Leishmania donovani is causing cutaneous leishmaniasis. And this Leishmaniasis donovani, it is important because it is also causing the visceral leishmaniasis, which is a deadliest disease if not treated in time. So this article is a highlighting article where it says that Leishmania donovani persistence in cutaneous leishmaniasis. Now the causative agent in Western Nepal is Leishmania donovani complex. So now the molecular identification studies have started and revealed that L. donovani in 59.1% and L major in 40.9% of molecular diagnosed CL cases. We can know from the world literature that there are many other species of leishmaniasis causing cutaneous leishmaniasis. L. tropica has also been reported as a causative agent. The increasing role of L. donovani in CL represents a significant evolving phenomenon in our region. Now we can see the articles in 2021, emergence of cutaneous leishmaniasis in Nepal. Similarly, a rare case of cutaneous leishmaniasis in Kathmandu presenting with features of bacterial skin infection. Similarly, we can see an atypical erysipeloid presentation of cutaneous leishmaniasis from the hilly regions of Nepal. So this is all targeting the hills. So can cutaneous leishmaniasis provoke a resurgence of Kala-Azar in the Indian subcontinent is the article. So this is also important for us, as we already said that Leishmania donovani causing VL and also CL. So we don't know whether the CL cases would evolve into VL. This is yet a matter of fact, a matter of research to be done, and it is to be taken with great consideration. So although the VL cases may be decreasing in Nepal, since the Donovan is also causing the CL, so the national elimination target 2026 may shift further with these data or research which are yet to be carried out. So this is a case of high altitude cutaneous leishmaniasis in a non-endemic region in Nepal. So this is the article. So mucus, and then we come to a deadly case here in Nepalganj again. Our team suspects a 26-year-old male from Daile with throat pain, nasal obstruction, and oropharyngeal mass. So in the biopsy, we again see leishmania here. So MST codes were demonstrated on biopsy, and the serological marker RK39 was positive here. Though this RK39 is not a reliable marker because it is only for VL or PKDL, but this RK39, which is a reliable serological marker, is also positive in this case. So this again is a dangerous article because it says that we are also coming up with mucosal leishmaniasis. And this mucosal leishmaniasis presents with nasal obstruction, the rhinorrhea, and many other oropharyngeal symptoms. So we may be missing many of the cases. So we have to also screen for these masses, mucocutaneous masses or mucosal masses for leishmania in our part. So, so what is the evolving narrative in Nepal now? So the perception of CL as a rare disease in Nepal is a historical descriptor, not currently a reality. Recent epidemiological data consistently demonstrate a significant and concerning rising trend in CL cases in our part. So the CL is actively transitioning from a historical uncommon disease to an emerging public health challenge. So this reframing is crucial for understanding of the disease in our part. So the neglect and misdiagnosis must be a major thing in this disease. So due to its historical uncommonness, CL may not have been thought by the healthcare personnel, and atypical presentation, we'll be seeing the pictures as I move on. So the heterogeneous and often atypical clinical presentations not described in the literatures, because I told you the species causing CL in other parts of the world are different, and so the wound it depicts is also different. So the book says that, the literature says that CL does not need any treatment, but our cases, though small, it leaves with scarring. The skin lesions, they leave a scar, and the patient has it in the exposed parts like a face, the teenagers, so they come for treatment from far off regions to our place. So the heterogeneous and often atypical clinical presentations of CL lesion frequently lead to misdiagnosis. So in Nepal, CL is commonly mistaken for other granulomatous diseases which have been said very common, like tuberculosis or leprosy. So nobody thought of CL as a major evolution here in the country. Now, what may be the problems in diagnosis? So as I already said, the demography, the landscape, the map which I showed, traveling from there to my place is a tremendous task. The transport, and then the demography, like the lowlands was suspected, and the hills nobody would suspect. So was it underdiagnosed? Was it underreported? Was it underrecognized? So now this neglected tropical diseases is also a problem here in many countries as well as Nepal. So there is a clinical dilemma, and there is a varied presentation, and it is also a mimicker of other dermatological conditions. And there is observer variability under the microscope. One may not see the emastigode in the microscope. So many biopsies or many cytologies may be missed if the clinician does not say what it is, or there is no clinical suspicion of leishmaniasis. So various topical applications are already applied before the patient comes to our part. So the wound morphology also changes grossly. So most common disease come first, leprosy, TB in our part. So we should be careful that these patients may go into the various departments, surgery, medicine, ENT, or otorhinolaryngology, or dermatology, as we saw. So we saw mucocutaneous lesion from the ENT department. So surgery may not think of cutaneous leishmaniasis, rather they would think of cutaneous malignancy or a traumatic ulcer by an insect bite. So medicine would go through vasculitis or bacterial and viral infections. So dermatology, the experts may have many DDs, and they would keep lupus vulgaris or leprosy as one of the topmost diagnoses, as we also see in our part here. And this is a clinical differential diagnosis, and for the pathologist, for the experts, this there may be a triggers for granuloma because it's a it poses a granulomatous reaction in the tissues after the sandfly bite. So it may be confused with many infectious, autoimmune, allergic, or some toxic substances causing granulomatous reaction, foreign bodies, or neoplasms. So there are many triggers in the clinical diagnosis as well as the cytological as histopathological diagnosis. So now the lab diagnosis was previously based on PCR ELISA, that was indirect and direct parasite demonstration, which was through scrape smears, slit thin smears, and this serology by RK39, which was debatable for cutaneous leishmaniasis. But what did we do? So in our part, the gold standard diagnosis which we did was FNAC, that was a fine needle aspiration cytology from the wound. So the gold standard for definitive diagnosis involves direct microscopic demonstration of the parasite, that is the amastigote form from lesion, smears or tissue biopsies. Now, the molecular techniques such as PCR are increasingly employed for accurate diagnosis and species identification. So while the rapid test RDTs, I already stated that are accurate for VL, serological tests have limited value for diagnosing CL. So some CL may be RK39 positive and some CL may be RK39 negative. So this was what we initialized or what we started with. So this was a technique which I performed on this part, and that was by fine needle aspiration cytology. So this is a child from Jajarkot. We can see the submandibular lymph nodes also enlarged and with a lesion over the chin. So this was a technique, a very simple technique. So this is under publication. So this was fine needle aspiration cytology, which was not labeled in the books, which was not indicated in the books. So I started this as I saw these small kids from those far off regions from Nepal roaming around the hospital and would not be ready for a biopsy, as these are kids and it would take a long time for they stay here. So I just started with this and it gave a beautiful result demonstrating these beautiful epithelioid granulomas in the cytological smears. So these arrows show LD bodies. So we can see a beautiful granuloma amongst which are small double dot amastigotes of the parasite, and the arrow, the red arrow shows the clustering of the amastigotes in a beautiful ring fashion. So this is the cytodiagnosis. The beauty of this cytodiagnosis is this patient is coming to this hospital with unhealthy surgical wound to the surgery department. There was lots of dressing, there was lots of care for this wound, it was not getting okay. So again, since I had already started these aspiration technique, I aspirated this and we came to know that was a leishmaniasis. But this patient had no records of his wound excision. So the wound later on healed with the medication. So it was a non-healing wound after biopsy of some lesion, which we don't know, it was not documented, and we could see leishmania amastigotes in the smear. So this was a skin biopsy. We further again retrospectively got the biopsy. We can see the ulcerated squamous epithelium there and lots of early bodies. So this was a HNE stain, retrospectively HNE stain on biopsy of that young boy and who was RK39. So this demonstrates the LD bodies in biopsy also. Retrospectively, after the cytology, we went to see the wound again. So are we missing those cases on biopsy, or we are not suspecting it clinically is still our concern. So these are beautiful intracellular LD bodies inside a macrophage. So we can see the double dot structures on microscopy. So these are the amastigotes, how the cytology highlights the disease. So you can see the density of the amastigotes vary. This is again a big nucleated macrophage harboring many amastigotes which are intracellular as well as extracellular. So here also it was a non-healing ulcer over the chin for 1.5 months. So as we see the data, this duration varies from months. So this was just 1.5 months. Now, and it was RK39 negative. And this is a Giemsa stain which we do on cytology. And these properties of this Giemsa stain, they highlight the parasites and they make it look bigger. So cytology is even more preferred for us in this part. So now FNS cytology, you can see the lesion, the density of the parasite, and this smear was from the non-healing ulcer over tip of nose for 3 months, and again it was RK39 negative. You can see here the parasite load is decreased, so we need a keen observation for these parasites if the density are low. So this is a lesion how it looks. So according to the literature, these lesions need no treatment. But this girl, these two girls, you can see the one also in her lip, a small lesion, and in her cheek. So these are like scaly lesions which are not healing. And for a pubertal girl, this would not, the parents would not just stay and wait for the disease to heal. And you can see the girl on my right. So she has a little bit of scarring in her cheeks. So without treatment, the skin is, the lesion is disfiguring. It can cause a scar, and it can make oneself look ugly with the lesion on the skin. So this disease needs treatment. This disease needs concern. So these are all kids. We can see the beautiful solitary as well as multiple lesions. So they are, especially what we got in our literature was a papillonodular lesion, plaque, macules. They can present as ulcers with central craters. You can see the female from Boitadi, she has 5 lesions on her face. And what I observed was, I did cytology from all the 5 spots on her face. So what I realized, what the youngest lesion yielded more number of parasites, and the oldest lesion yielded less number of parasites in my observation. So this was again a young kid, so having these lesions, and these were from months, 1 to 6 months. Okay, so this was a government officer who came with this, and he had multiple treatments. So this was again a case of cutaneous leishmaniasis. We can see it is affecting mostly the face, and this was a beautiful lesion in a young boy who had come for treatment. So this lesion was from Lamjung. This lesion was from Lamjung. The patient had come from Lamjung. So I don't know whether he brought this lesion from Lamjung. He has gone there during the earthquakes to for construction. So we can see his lesion. So he went to the ENT department where they suspected this as malignancy. So we tried FNA here. You can see the central ulcer, the raised borders, the red lesion, and here we again, according to our protocol, we did RK39. Though not everybody suggests RK39, but we did it and it was negative. So we already demonstrated LD bodies here. So we could say this is a case of cutaneous leishmaniasis. So this person has not gone to anywhere outside Nepal. These are endogenous cases from our country, Nepal. So what I would say, this aspiration cytology, it's a very simple technique. This is quick, cheaper, repeatable. We can repeat it if we even have a greater doubt, and if the aspirates are hemorrhagic. And we can see there are many lesions as well as solitary lesions. So if we would be doing a biopsy, we would do it from one part. But here we can see we are doing it from the multiple lesions, and LD bodies detected in most of our cases. So larger parasites were seen in MGG, or that is the Giemsa stain, and the follow-up lesions, it healed or there was a scar. So this is a recent case, picture courtesy by Dr. Darshan from Kalikot. He sent this lesion, he showed me this picture, and since the patient could not come, he was sick, and I told my lab technician there to just have a touch smear from this lesion. So there were many touch smears from this lesion, and this lesion, I say it is involving both the skin as well as inside, gives the smear a positive MST goal. So later on I queried, and this patient also had VL. So this is a concern for today's talk, that whether we are facing the CL moving on to VL or not, or the CL, which we are seeing the rising number of cases, would lead to visceral leishmaniasis in the future, which would be moving our 2026 elimination guideline further. So these are the recent pictures from Kalikot. Dr. Dheeraj Shah from Kalikot, Pachal Jharna, where is the epicenter, considered epicenter for leishmaniasis. He sent me these pictures, recent pictures. We can see a breastfeeding infant there. So these are all kids. We can see disfiguring lesions in the face, the exposed parts of the face. This is a beautiful lesion for us, but this child is breastfeeding. So this is a place where, why in the hills? So this Pachal waterfall is the tallest waterfall of Nepal, located in Karnali province. So these cases, according to a literature which says 10 number from Kalikot, are concentrated about these regions, which is called Pachal Jharna. Jharna is a waterfall in Nepali, and so this is Pachal Jharna, because the temperature around this area is like the temperate temperature, or like the lowlands in the Tarai. The temperature in the crevices is very high, so it is supposed that these clustering of the cases are in these around these hilly regions in Kalikot. So these are the, so we still have hope. These cases, our doctors here, our dermatologists, they treated without the anti-leishmania drug, and they were treated with antifungals in our part, which gives a beautiful result. We can see the treated CL patients here. So this is again another treated patient. So you can see the lesion. It's a papulonodular lesion here with crusting, and then big coin-like lesion which has decreased in size after treatment with anti-fungal drugs. So this is these people, according to the literature, which says that we need to wait and watch. We will not be able to tell them to wait and watch. So this is another DD of leishmaniasis, as we say. So this was easily diagnosed as lupus vulgaris, or tuberculosis of the skin, which was treated by anti-tubercular drugs of this child. So this comes under DD of leishmaniasis, but the experts would know it better. So this was also our cytodiagnosis. We said it's tuberculosis. The lesion looks little varied from the various lesions we saw of cutaneous leishmaniasis. So these lesions also look different. They don't have a central ulcer. So these are also the differentials, which are lupus vulgaris. So what is, we did a short 6 years data review. So we got to know that leprosy was the most common granulomatous disease in our part, with cutaneous leishmaniasis being the second most. So we thinking that lupus vulgaris or leprosy, the most common, has shifted, that cutaneous leishmaniasis was the second most common in our part. Females, since they are the household workers, were the more than the males. And lesion was, you can see the face, the cheek, the nose, then the forearm and the abdomen. So this is of concern. This needs treatment. And solitary lesions were more. So, and this indurated erythematous plaque with central cast was the maximum after this characteristic, when we characterize this lesion. And this is again interesting, as I had to mention it here. It is not cutaneous leishmaniasis, but this is called PKDL. Since it is also a leishmaniasis causing skin lesions, it is called post-Kala-Azar dormant leishmaniasis. So it comes with VL. It may be without the presentation of VL. So why we need to concentrate this? Because it is, we can confuse it with leprosy. So for the beginners, these lesions we have yet to find out, because we are not picking this up from the western region of Nepal, as we are picking cutaneous leishmaniasis. So these lesions are non-ulcerated, non-itchy, and non-aesthetic. So unlike leprosy. So now what is the approach in Nepal? So the diagnostic approach of 2CL in Nepal is undergoing a crucial evolution, as we have seen. The historical reliance on clinical suspicion is being supplemented with complementary methods, as we saw many articles with PCR diagnosis, where Leishmania donovani was isolated. And then the widespread adoption of cytodiagnosis is providing an accessible and effective means of parasite detection. The increasing application of molecular techniques is allowing for precise species identification and genomic surveillance, vital for detecting emerging drug-resistant lineages. So what we have done is, in our part, the paradigm has shifted from the more common TB or leprosy to cutaneous leishmaniasis as the first differential diagnosis. And we have designed a protocol where we do a series of tests. We do serology with RK39, we do CBC, and we follow this format. So cutaneous leishmaniasis comes in the first differential diagnosis among ulcerated lesions in our part. So this was all in a resource limited setting where we had no PCR. We had the patients were very poor and coming from far off regions. We had no time to wait. So we revolutionized a technique, that is a FNA cytology, leading to cytodiagnosis, which changed the epidemiological data of the country. And we saw, as we saw, that the cases are from the hills, and they are all indigenous population and they are not imported from other countries. So, and as we can be more clear, as the cases are more in children, so which indicates the disease burden to the country. And clinicians, the first clinical differential of a non-healing ulcer, as we just saw, was cutaneous leishmaniasis. Now, the pathologist perspective of looking at the specimen has become changed. All of us are now detecting cutaneous leishmaniasis from different parts of the country, and we are discussing it. And this complex nature beyond infectious aspect makes it a disease of public health importance. And this not only infectious disease, it is also a mental disease. As we can see, the young children, the pubertal children, when they feel that we should look beautiful and they are getting this in the faces, so this also leads to a mental health impact on those uh, young beautiful kids. They are having a lesion, and when their friends are not having, so it's also a issue of mental health disease for the emerging kids, where they have burden of studies and in a resource limited setting. So it is a endemic disease for us, but it has become a global issue now. So the recommendations mine would be, let us detect the parasite before starting a anti-leishmania treatment, which is very toxic. Though the government of Nepal has various programs for visceral leishmaniasis, it is giving free treatment, travel costs. So let us not start the anti-leishmania treatment. Let us have the parasite detection in both VLCL, MCL cases, and a randomized controlled trial. Let us start that. So whether the treatment is needed or not, as the literature says, watchful expectancy, which is not there in our part, I believe. So if treatment needed, which drug? Because we were doing it with antifungals, because the drug miltefosine was not available in our part when we started our research long back in 2008, and where we started seeing it in 2012, and then we reported in 2018. Miltefosine was not available in the private sector where I'm working, so we don't know if treatment needed, which drugs, for what duration and doses. So local, intralesional, as the historic highlight says, that intralesional drugs were effective, or systemic. So FNA for nodules, ulcers, let us develop that technique rather than scrape, slit, or biopsy. Let us watch for diagnosis, and then let us start the molecular diagnosis with PCR. Let us make it our priority. So concluding this, I would say that there is an epidemiological transformation in Nepal, a significant epidemiological transformation, as we also saw in the series of the cases here, and this becomes a emerging public health concern. It's no longer a strictly rare disease, but rather an emerging public health concern characterized by a clear increase in reported cases and a notable geographical expansion from the lowlands to the hills of the Nepal. So there's a complex etiology, more complex than previously thought, with Leishmania donovani playing a significant role alongside L major and L tropica. So this Leishmania donovani, this etiology is very difficult for us to deal with the elimination guideline, which is 2026. And now new parasite lineages. So crucially, genomic surveillance has identified new Leishmania parasite lineages, some exhibiting genetic markers associated with drug resistance. So these are all our concerns. So now we should start the prevention and control strategies. So comprehensive vector control, which has already started in Kalikot by the government and various parts of Nepal. So the sandfly vector, this is beautiful, as it is the only vector and it is easy to eliminate it or eradicate it from the community. So Phlebotomus argentipus is the predominant sandfly vector responsible for transmitting Leishmania donovani in the Indian subcontinent, including Nepal, is the recent update now. So now traditional interventions like this indoor residual spray with insecticides and the widespread use of insecticide-treated nests have been used in Kalikot, where I visited recently in the winter season. So they are doing a tremendous work. Nepal government is doing a tremendous work, but still, due to the landscape, due to poor sanitation, poor household, low socio-economic status, it's still a matter of concern for all of us. And this environmental management focuses on eliminating sandfly breeding sites such as stagnant water and organic waste, which we are doing here in the country. So with this, I would like to conclude and just make a highlight that the elimination 2026 would be a little difficult for us, because we have We have been seeing cutaneous leishmaniasis caused by L. donovani in our part. So the L. donovani causing both of the diseases. I am not sure. Studies are needed for greater insights into the disease. So I must say that cutaneous leishmaniasis is and a very important disease besides visceral leishmaniasis. So we should also focus on cutaneous leishmaniasis. With this, I end my talk here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pragya, for your nice presentation. We are really glad to have you today for this session. Now the QA session has been on for everyone. You can just unmute yourself, raise your hand, and can ask the questions. In the meantime, if you are like Sai and you don't want to ask the question, you can just drop a message inbox. Pratisha will be reading on behalf of RDSN the questions, which will be in the inbox. Thank you. Any other person? Yes. Yeah, Neeraj has some questions. You can ask the question. Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Praga ma'am, for this beautiful presentation. So, myself is Neeraj Prasad Shah. I am a final year student at Nepalganj Medical College. So, I had one question uh, is there any clinical signs that the patient present with, or simply the patient come with non-healing ulcer or cutaneous lesions as far as CL is concerned? As an intern, when we'll be posted in medicine or anything else, like except cutaneous lesions, is there any clinical signs the patient will present with?
Excellent question. I think I missed that, Neeraj. Thank you very much. So these patients, they don't have a history, prolonged history of fever, like we say in VL. They do not have splenomegaly. They do not have other symptoms. They only present with the skin lesions. Thank you very much for this reminder. They only come with the skin lesions. They have no history of fever. They have no history of organomegaly or other associated symptoms which we get in visceral leishmaniasis. So they only come with the skin lesion.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you
So
so much.
thank you, Neeraj, for your question. Any other questions? Amit has some question. Like I can't see the full name, but Amit, you can go ahead and ask the question.
I think easy
Pratisha
mute.
is yeah. Pratisha, if there is any inbox thing, then you can just read and ask Madam about the questions. If you are
There are no questions.
okay, no questions so far. So, Madam, I have a question. Have you just confirmed any of the cases with that you have shown in your slides saying that you can go to the PCR and you can do PCR for those things. So, have you confirmed any of the cases by doing a PCR for your
Yeah, I've just
findings?
focused.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rupesh. I've just focused a slide here. So this was a paper presented by Srijana Shrestha, who's from TU, Kathmandu. She came here to take five samples. So these were the samples, our samples, which she did a PCR, and it demonstrated LD bodies. And this was presented, she presented this paper in Italy, and it got the best paper award. So it was immunomolecular study of cutaneous leishmaniasis and alarming and emerging disease of Nepal. So these cases were the cases, our cases from our hospital.
So, what I
Thank you.
believe, why
So
don't
it,
we consider like starting a test in your hospital because it is more prone to these cases. You can just the PCR machines are everywhere these days. You just need to buy some kits and you can start the testing right there. Just extraction from the tissue and just doing a PCR will be what I believe you should consider in the coming days doing the PCR in your center there because that will be more helpful for the people who are there.
thank you, Dr. Rupesh.
Yeah. So,
Yes,
any other
you
questions?
being a geneticist, I think you should take the lead, and I'd be very happy. There are PCR machines in our hospital. Thank you.
Yeah, Neeraj Prasad Shah has raised his hand. You can ask your question.
Thank you, Dr. Rupesh sir. So, one more query, ma'am. CL is being clustered in Kalikot, especially. So, is there any this is supposed to be a chronic case, na? So, is there any screening tools that we can detect earlier? in those population, or it has to be presented in to the clinician in
Yeah. So the government of Nepal is focusing Kalikot right now. So I just read in the news few days ago that they were doing the serology testing, and they have some data there. So they are doing serological testing, which is not detecting so much of VL cases. So as I already told you, and I have put on the maps that the CL cases, we don't know whether they are causing VL or not, but VL cases, they are decreasing in the country. So as we are testing only for VL, we are missing CL. So these skin lesions will not come by serology or detection as far as we do these wound scrapes or wound lesion PCR of these wound lesions. So we are not detecting VL. The government has programs in those districts. It is very fruitful, and they are having these sandfly elimination programs. But this cutaneous leishmaniasis, we have to detect it, the parasite demonstration, which is not being there done there.
Any other questions?
thank you, ma'am.
If you don't have any questions, then we'll stop this session right here. Just let me know if you have any questions. Any inbox so far?
No, sir.
Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Pragya, for a nice presentation again. And I would like to thank everyone who has participated during this event. And we are doing this type of events every month at the end of the last week of every month. You can join us. So I'll be glad if I can see the same faces in the coming days, in the coming conferences and seminar like this. Thank you again, ma'am, for your nice presentation. We should really clap for your
Thank
work.
you very much.
Yeah.